I recall reading a recent Trump message to his supporters that asked them how, quote, many corrupt, biased, crooked Joe Biden protection agency New York judges do I have to endure before somebody steps in, end of quote. The Lincoln Project has published a YouTube video titled, quote, what he means, end of quote. Trump uses language that could easily be interpreted by some of his supporters as a request to commit violence. And if one actually shot and killed a prosecutor or judge in one of Trump's cases, Trump would, of course, deny any responsibility, even if the person committing the act said he or she was just doing what Trump asked them. Trump will draw in people around him into a vortex of malfeasance. Mark Meadows, a former chief of staff, is now a defendant in a Georgia case. Two employees have been indicted along with Trump in the documents case. Those are Walt Nauta and Carlos de Oliveira. The former CFO of the Trump organization, Alan Weisselberg, has pled guilty to perjury and 15 counts of grand larceny, criminal tax fraud, and falsifying business records. Two subsidiaries of the Trump organization were convicted by a jury on 17 counts of conspiracy, criminal tax fraud, and falsifying business records back in December 2022. Why did Trump hire a lawyer like Michael Cohen? The answer, in my opinion, is that he wanted someone who had the sleaze of a Roy Cohn, who would cross the line of what was legal in order to serve Trump. In Michael Cohen, Trump was looking for another Roy Cohn. Cohen has pled guilty to multiple felonies, as people know, 5 counts of tax evasion, 1 count of making false statements to a financial institution, 1 count of willfully causing an unlawful corporate contribution in breach of the Federal Election Commission Act, and 1 count of making an excessive campaign contribution at the request of Trump for the principle and purpose of influencing the 2016 election. For those unfamiliar with Cohn and his influence on Trump, I would recommend reading an article titled, quote, The Final Lesson Donald Trump Never Learned from Roy Cohn, published by Politico magazine on September 19, 2019. The final lesson is that a price will be paid for malfeasance. For people like Trump and his mentor, Cohn, it just took a long time. Quoting from that article published in Politico, Cohn has been described by people who knew him as a snake, a scoundrel, and a new strain of SOB. The author refers to a documentary that just had been released, and it was appropriate to ask after viewing that documentary how much of Cohn and his savage, abrasive, and amoral behavior is visible in Trump's behavior. And I believe that Trump has modeled himself on Cohn. His shamelessness and lack of integrity and honesty, and the way Cohn viciously responds to critics or anyone who gets in his way. The documentary is titled, quote, Where's My Roy Cohn? End quote. It is worth viewing for anyone who wants to understand Trump better, in my opinion. The film is currently available for rent at Amazon for $3.59. Those who have worked for Trump and who have managed to avoid civil or criminal charges originating from that association have been rewarded in many cases with a constant stream of invective from the Viper. Statements about Bill Barr, his former Attorney General, include things like he's a gutless pig, a coward, a lowlife, a disgrace, lethargic, slow thinking, and there are probably more. I quit after I wrote those down. Statements about Rex Tillerson, his former Secretary of State, he called him dumb as a rock, lazy as hell, and didn't have the mental capacity needed to be working for Trump. Trump's statements about the four-star Marine General John Kelly, who was his chief of staff for a while, and these are some quotes. John Kelly, by far the dumbest of my military people, just picked up the theme of the radical left's lying about Gold Star family and soldiers and his hatred of me. He was incapable of doing a good job. It was too much for him, and I couldn't stand the guy, so I fired him like a dog. When a former congressman, Republican congressman, Joe Scarborough, criticized Trump, Trump falsely accused him of murdering an intern. When he was, and that statement was made when Trump was president of the United States. He had no evidence, of course, whatsoever to back up that claim. It was just made because Scarborough had criticized him. These kind of statements are normal for Trump. The only way to avoid them for someone who has worked for Trump is to stay 100% loyal to him no matter what, never criticize him about anything, and praise him effusively. And that must be done even when Trump has gotten the person in trouble, either in a civil action or in criminal charges. The statements that he makes about hundreds of people who cross his path are reflective only of his mean spirit and his loathsome character. These statements come from Trump, despicable statements come from Trump almost on a daily basis, frequently multiple times a day, and reading them as I have can result in only one conclusion about his character.